right, and welcome to your 9 a.m. begin yoga. Um, I think since we want to do some stuff with the lymph system today, yep, I got some good stuff. So we're gonna start in child's pose with your knees wide to the edge of the mat, your big toes touching, and your hips sitting back on your heels. Or you can reach your hands forward on the mat if you want to. You can even get a block or a stack of books or something and place your forehead on the block. That way you're not having to use your muscles as much to hold up your neck and your head. Or you can rest your forehead all the way down on the mat. And as you're in child's pose, start to connect with your breath. Notice what your breath is doing, if it's slow or fast, if you're taking shallow little sips of air, or if you're breathing fully. You might even notice your belly move in and out with your breaths, or maybe your rib cage expands as you breathe in and collapses again. And your breath might naturally start to become more even or a little deeper as you bring your awareness to it, but there's no need to force it to be different. And then I just want to mention that if you ever want to come back to child's pose at any point in time through the practice, no matter what I'm telling you to do, you can always do that. You've always got this home base to come back to. And staying in child's pose, we're going to walk both hands over to the right side of the mat, one handprint at a time. And you might lift up a little bit so that you can slide those hands over to one side. And feel how there's space to breathe here, even in the side stretch. And then walk your hands back to center and over to the other side. Take a moment to breathe. And then walk your hands back to center. Take one more full breath. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth in your child's pose. Before you start to walk your hands back under your shoulders, bring your knees in under your hips, and we'll move to tabletop. And from tabletop, so you're on your hands and knees, you can hinge forward and back. We're just going to take some organic movement to start to warm up the joints. Very slow, gentle movements. If you want to, you can move side to side a little bit, snaking back and forth. You could even make some circles, slow, big circles with your entire body. If you do circles, switch sides so that you do both ways. And then when you come back to a stationary tabletop, we'll move through some cat-cows. For cow, drop your belly, lift your tailbone so that you're arching your back, but draw your shoulders down and back away from the ears as you bring your gaze upward. Exhale, round your spine, sucking your belly button into your spine and pushing your shoulders up to the ceiling. And inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. You're starting to connect breath with movement. And we'll do 2 more full cycles on your own time, matching your breath. Cow and cat. And then come back to a neutral tabletop once more. And from here, we'll move into our first down dog of the day. So if you want to move your hands 1 handprint forward on the mat to give yourself some extra space, you can. Tuck your toes, lift your knees, lift your hips, and pedal out your down dog by straightening one leg and then the other. Saying hello to the hamstrings, hello to the ankles. And then when you've warmed up your legs a little bit, you can have them straight, but you can also bend them so that you can press your heart towards your thighs and fully extending through your arms, through your back, creating one strong line. And breathe here. Down dog can also be a resting pose for some, but not for me. So I understand if not for you too. We won't stay here very long. And on your next inhale, gaze forward to the spot on your mat between your hands. And we're going to tiptoe, walk the feet all the way between the hands, coming to a forward fold. And you can have your feet hip width apart, which is about 2 fists apart, or you can bring your big toes to touch with your heels apart a little bit. And then just let everything hang loose. Let your head and neck relax. Let your arms maybe swing freely a little bit. And if it feels like this hurts your low back a little bit, think of lifting your tailbone up to the ceiling so that the top half of your body is just draped over your legs. On your next inhale, we're going to rise up to standing, but we're going to do it very slowly, like one vertebra at a time. You can start to engage your core just a tiny bit to support your spine as you roll up. Your shoulders and your head are still hanging loose and relaxed until the spine stacks underneath it. And your head is the very last thing to float up. You can shine your palms forward to the front of the room if you want. As you find your stability in mountain pose, root down through your feet, send energy down into the ground underneath you. At the same time, feeling that light lifted sensation through the crown of your head that is pulling you upward, having you stand tall. Inhale your arms up overhead and exhale, forward fold. You can bring your hands through heart center if you want. And from your forward fold, inhale, halfway lift. Bring your hands to your shins or your thighs. Squeeze the elbows back and together towards your rib cage so that you're creating a flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep your arms up overhead, coming all the way to extended mountain pose. And maybe you even want to take a little mini back bend here. And exhale, forward fold. This time, plant your hands on the mat. We're going to step back to a high plank. So step one foot back, the other foot back. You can stay in a high plank or you can always drop your knees to the mat. Either way, your core is engaged. Your shoulders are stacked over your wrists. So I'll do it from kneeling. And then we'll slowly lower down all the way down to the mat, belly to the mat. You can release one cheek to the mat if you want. But without putting a lot of weight in your hands, we're going to peel the chest off the mat for a low cobra. As you inhale, lift the chest up. And your gaze comes forward, maybe at a spot on the ground just in front of your mat. So you're still lengthening the spine. Release, cheek to the mat, chest to the mat. Take a breath here, and then inhale, bring the chest up again. And release. This time, press weight into your hands as you bring your chest and your belly up. Push back to tabletop position. And from tabletop, tuck your toes, lift your knees and your hips, come into down dog. Inhale, gaze forward to the spot on the mat between your hands. Exhale, step your feet forward, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, bringing your hands to the shins or the thighs. Suck the belly button in to support the core. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms up overhead for extended mountain. And exhale, forward fold. We'll do one more sun A and then we'll start to build on it. So from here, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Plant your hands on the mat. Step one foot back, then the other. You can go from your knees, lower down to the mat, squeezing your elbows into your rib cage. Inhale up to a low cobra, or you can come all the way into an upward facing dog. And exhale, coming back into a downward facing dog. Inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, step your feet between your hands, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, bring your arms up overhead for extended mountain. And then this time as you exhale, sit back and into an invisible chair, coming to chair pose. So you sit back and take a look to make sure you can see your toes beyond your knees. Bring your biceps up by your ears. Drop the shoulders down. And remember to breathe. One more inhale here. Exhale. On your inhale, stand back up to extended mountain. And exhale, forward fold. Plant your hands on the mat. Step back to a high plank or knees. And then lower down to a cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, push back to downward facing dog. Inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, step your feet between your hands for forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep your arms up overhead for extended mountain. And then as you exhale, sink back into your yogi chair again. And this time you can bring your hands to heart center. And we'll take a little baby twist, nothing too crazy. But lean your heart forward a bit. And then start to look over your right shoulder, drawing that left elbow down. Right elbow comes up. You're just starting to remind your spine that it twists and it likes to move in all different directions. Come back to center. Maybe come out of chair pose for a minute. Up into extended mountain. Before you sink back into chair pose, reaching the heart forward and looking over your left shoulder to come into a gentle twist. One more breath. Release the twist back to center. Come up to extended mountain with arms overhead one more time. And exhale, forward fold. Plant your hands on the mat. Step one foot back and then the other. Lower down into upward facing dog or cobra. And exhale, push back to downward facing dog. And from your down dog, inhale your left leg up behind you. Straight out, foot flexed like you're kicking the back wall. And then bring it through between your hands. If your foot doesn't quite reach, you can pick up your foot and scoot it forward so that your knee is right over your ankle. And you might scoot your back foot in a little bit if you want, if that makes you feel more stable. And we'll come up to a warrior two. So your back foot is going to set down with your foot parallel to the short edge of the mat. So your right foot's pointing forward, left foot is out to the side, and rise on up to your warrior two. We'll take a minute to settle into our warrior two so you can get your feet adjusted. And then let your hips sink a little into your stance so that your lunge is a little deeper. But you should feel strong, rooted, with equal amounts of your weight and energy pressing through both of your feet. From your warrior two, reach forward through your right hand and tip over to extended side angle. Your side angle might have your right hand dropping down towards the ground. You might have that forearm rested on the thigh without too much weight. Or your top arm, you have the option to reach it up towards the sky or the option to drop it behind your back for a half bind. I'll turn around so you can see the half bind. Is the top arm would drop behind. And if you do have that left arm in a half bind, or if you've got it up towards the ceiling, imagine pressing the shoulder back. Almost like someone's giving you a really hard high five. And it pushes that hand back, it pushes the shoulder back, and it opens the chest. And on your next inhale, let that top arm, if it's in the bind, let it come up towards the ceiling. If it's pointed towards the ceiling, let your breath bring you up and over for a reverse warrior. And stay low in your lunge in the front leg. Take another breath here. And then as you exhale, cartwheel both hands down to the mat, framing your front foot. And send the front foot back to meet the back one, coming into your high plank. And then lower down. Come into your cobra or your upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. From down dog this time, we're gonna get ready to bring our left leg into action. So inhale your left leg up, flexed foot kicking out behind you, and then bring it through to come right between your hands. You can scoot it forward. When you're ready, when you've got your balance, set your back foot sideways so it's parallel to the short edge of the mat, and rise on up to your warrior two. Taking your time, making sure that front knee is tracking right over your front toes. If it's doing something wonky, if that knee wants to come in, you can always take a hand and press it out. And sink into your warrior two. On your next inhale, reach forward and tip over into your extended side angle. And this one might be the same as the other side, might want to try some different stuff. You've got the option to rest your forearm on the thigh. You have the option to drop your top hand behind you for a half bind. Remembering to pull that shoulder back to open the chest. And then bring that top arm back up to the ceiling. Let it pull you up and over for reverse warrior. And then on your next exhale, cartwheel your hands down to the front of the mat. Send your front foot back to meet the back and move through your chaturanga, lowering down, coming to cobra or up dog, pushing back to a down dog. And then you can come into child's pose for a moment if you want, taking a little rest, maybe a sip of water. And then reconnect with your breath here. Check in with your inhales, your exhales. If you're starting to build up some core body heat, you can always inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth like a sigh to release some extra heat. And then from your child's pose, we'll come back to a tabletop position, bringing your hips over your knees. And we're going to come up into a standing pose for humble warrior. Easiest way to get here is to shift weight to your left knee, bring your right foot between your hands, tuck your back toes, lift your knee, stand up. And this time we're going to set down the back heel so that the foot ends up being at a 45-degree angle. So it's not the same footing as warrior two. When you feel pretty steady on your feet and balanced, you can put one hand on your thigh and then the other, and lift your torso up. Use a wall if you need it. I love having this wall here. So that you're coming up to standing and both hips are pointed straight towards the front of your mat. From here, inhale your arms up overhead, biceps by your ears. And then exhale, drop the hands behind you, interlace the fingers. And then pull your shoulders back, opening your chest. You can take a little back bend here if you want, before you start to fold forward over your front leg and lead with your heart so that you're hinging over. And sometimes I like having the chest opener, the heart opener here. Sometimes I don't. And so if you want to release those hands and let them come to either side of your front foot, or if you want to bring them to a block, you can. If you want to continue opening the front of the shoulders and the chest, you can keep your fingers interlaced and lifting. You want to be careful not to let them drop too far towards your head or collapse in the shoulders. You want to keep it lifted, keep it expanded. And take one more breath here. Release both hands down to the mat, framing your front foot. And then we're gonna switch feet. So you can lower your back knee down to the mat. Send the front foot back. And maybe take some time to shake it out. Stretch it out. But that way we can switch legs from kneeling instead of going through down dog again. So from here, step your left foot between your hands. Tuck your back toes, lift your knee. When you set down your heel, set it so your foot's at a 45-degree angle. When you have your balance, rise up to warrior one. Make sure both hips are pointing forwards. You can always shorten your stance up a little if you need. And then from your warrior one, release your hands down behind you, interlace your fingers. Take a little back bend if you want. And then lead with the heart to fold over the front leg. And decide what you want to do with your arms here. Again, you've got the option to drop them down to either side of the front foot or to set them on a block. Take one more breath. And then if your hands are still up behind you, release both to the mat to frame your front foot. And then we're going to bring the back knee down to the mat so that you can send your front foot back and shake it out. And then you can set that knee down. And then cross your ankles, sit back. We'll come to seated position. And from here, we'll just take a gentle twist to check in where our bodies are at with that, because sometimes just taking an easy twist will tell you if that's what your body wants right now or if it's absolutely what it does not want. So from here, bring your right hand behind you, right behind the base of your spine, so your arm is almost acting as a second spine to let you sit up nice and tall. And then your left hand comes to your right knee. You can start to look over your right shoulder if this is feeling good and feeling okay. And with every breath in, imagine that you're sitting up nice and tall and that there's a string attached to the crown of your head and it's pulling you upwards, lengthening your spine. And as you exhale, you relax. And as you relax, you might drop into the twist a little deeper, or you may not. Release back to center. This time, opposite side, you place your left hand behind you, right hand comes to the left knee. Sit up tall, lengthen the spine. And exhale. Relax into the twist. Without forcing it, without wrenching the spine. Just letting it be exactly what it is. And then slowly unwind, coming back to center. And we've got some options for a balance pose. Robin, how do you feel about doing eagle? The one where you're all twisted up?
I'll try it. Yeah, I've done it before.
Okay, let's give that a go. So we can work our way up to standing. Usually it takes me a few rock and rolls on my bum to get up, get my feet under me. So for eagle pose, you are going to have your feet rooted. So I think what we'll do is we'll start on the left. So we're going to shift our weight into the left foot so that you can start to pick up your right toes. And then as you pick up your toes off the mat, cross your right leg over your left so that your knees are kissing. And you can set down those toes to make like a kickstand for yourself, or you can keep wrapping the right leg around the left as much as it will want to wrap. But your supporting leg, your left leg, is pretty bent to allow the legs to wrap around. And then from here, we'll come into eagle arms. So for eagle arms, you cross the right arm under the left. And then bend your elbows. As you bend your elbows, start to bring your hands together. And if your fingers want to meet, then they meet. If they don't, they can stay here. Or you can drop your hands to your shoulders so that you're kind of giving yourself a hug. But whether you're here with hands on shoulders or if you've got your palms touching, lift your elbows up off your chest. And then see if you can push your hands away from your face a little bit. And then with all this nonsense going on with the hands, see if you can sink into your legs a little bit. Like bend the supporting leg. I always think of this like wringing out a washcloth, especially for the lymph system. Like all of the muscle contraction, tightening everything up. And then take one more breath before we release. Crunch everything in really tight, wring out the washcloth, and release the arms, release the legs. Bring in all that lovely blood flow back into your limbs. And then we'll try it on the other side. This time, shift your weight into your right foot, root down through that foot, spread your toes nice and wide so you're solid on the ground. Start to lift up the left toes off the mat, cross it over, and make sure that supporting leg is bent so that The back knee can tuck into the back of the left knee. You can set those toes down on the mat or keep wrapping them around the leg. This time for your eagle arms, your left arm will come underneath. Bend the elbows. You can bring the hands towards each other, or you can set the hands on the shoulders. Lift the elbows. Press the hands away from the face. And then squeeze everything in together. Wrap your legs tight, tight, tight around each other. Take one more breath. And release everything. Unwind the legs, unwind the arms. Maybe take a few shoulder rolls. And then I think we'll bring it down to the mat. So you can come into a seated position. And then we'll move into cobbler's pose. So bring the soles of your feet together. And you can decide how close or how far from your body you want your heels to be. I don't think one is any easier or harder than the other, but they might allow you to feel sensation in different areas. So once you find where you want your heels to be, we'll sit up nice and tall, and you have the option to stay right here. Now you can rest your hands on your thighs or your feet. If you want to, though, you can start to lead with your heart, hinge with your hips over your legs. And if you want to fully fold over your cobbler's pose, you can release the head and neck, and you can let the crown of your head come down towards your feet. And you're not pressing your knees down to the ground. You're just letting gravity pull the knees open as far as they want to go. And if your mind starts to wander while you're holding long yoga poses, bring your attention back to your breath. Bring your focus back. Maybe you even notice the sound of your own breath. Like the ocean waves washing up onto a beach and receding again. And then listen to your body here. If it tells you this is good, we're okay, you can stay here. If your body is wanting to move and it says, okay, this was good, but I've had enough,
Mhm.
then you can start to lift your chest back up. Maybe you even use your hands to push yourself back up to sitting. And since it took a very long time to get out of this into this pose, we'll take some time getting out and use your hands to help move your knees together so that you're not straining those inner thigh muscles. You can even extend them out in front of you, windshield wiper them side to side. Take whatever movements are going to feel good here. And then we're going to lower onto our backs. So you can put your knees behind your, or not your knees, put your hands behind your thighs above your knees. And then lean back so that you can gently roll onto your back. And then draw one knee into your chest and then the other, so that you can hug both knees into your chest. If you want to, you can rock side to side a little bit, or you could even make circles, like you're drawing imaginary circles on the ceiling with your knees. And if you're making circles in one direction, make sure to switch sides and make circles in the other direction. And then hug your knees into your chest one more time. And before we set up for Shavasana, option to do one more pose, option to move into a happy baby. So for happy baby, you're going to reach in and grab the outsides of your foot, or take your two front fingers and grab your big toe. But you will pull your knees towards your armpits. At the same time, you're moving the heels away from each other. So it's like an upside down squat, an upside down malasana. And you can get playful with this too. You can straighten one leg and then the other, kicking out, or taking little rocking motions side to side. And then release your feet. Hug your knees into your chest. Bring your forehead to your knees so that everything is curled in nice and tight. And then release the head down to the mat. Slide one leg down along the length of the mat and then the other one. And to set up for your final Shavasana, you can lay on your back with your hands down by your sides, letting your feet fall open, relaxed. Or if it feels better on your low back, you can bend your knees, putting your feet flat on the mat so that you don't have as an extreme arch in your low back. Or you've got the option to rest hands on your belly, or a hand on your belly and a hand on your heart. And once you've found your Shavasana pose, let your arms and legs start to feel heavy. And then starting at the very top of your head and moving down your body. See if there are any areas of tension, tightness, anything that you don't want. If you encounter an area of tension or pain, imagine sending your breath to it. It sounds kind of weird because we know in our heads when we breathe, air goes into our lungs and then it goes back out. But create for yourself the picture of breathing in light, fresh, clean, energizing air and sending it to that place of tension or pain. And as you exhale, the tension melts away. It dissipates like morning fog under the sun. Because you don't need it anymore. And as you continue scanning your body, down your arms to your wrists and your fingertips, breathing fresh air and light into any places that want it. Move your awareness back to your center and then down to the hips, to the knees, all the way to your ankles and your toes. Letting the tension and the pain melt away, letting it dissipate. And then enjoy the opportunity to rest and reset and to thank yourself for putting in the hard work that yoga sometimes is, sometimes just the choice to come to your mat and choose to practice. Thank yourself for that. Start to deepen your breathing. Notice your belly rise and fall with every breath in and out. And become aware of your body again. Maybe even take some small movements in your fingers and your toes. And then you can start to bring bigger movements. Maybe you roll your wrists and your ankles in little circles. And when you're ready, when you started to feel where your body is in space again, you can start to roll over onto your favorite side, bringing your knees up towards your chest a little bit and using your arm as a pillow. And from your side, press weight into your hands. Use your hands to press yourself up to a sitting position. Easy seated. And if your eyes are still closed, you can gently flutter them open. Let some daylight back in. I want to thank you so much for doing yoga with me on a Monday morning. I always enjoy it. And the light in me sees and honors and reflects the light in you. Namaste. I hope you have a wonderful Monday.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.